All right, guys, welcome back to the Bleacher Preacher podcast. Big news today. Bryce Harper finally signs with the Philadelphia Phillies. This is Jonathan here, and I got Rob by my side.
What up? What up?
All right, Rob. So the drama finally is over. Bryce Harper finally picks a home. Philadelphia, 13 years, $330 million. Your first thoughts?
That is a ton of years. No opt-outs. Actually, less than I expect. He's getting 25 mil a year. I thought he was going to be in that 30 mil a year, which would put the contract at 390. I'm guessing the Philadelphia Phillies did not want to go. Philadelphia Phillies probably offered either high AAV or high years and more guaranteed money. So with Bryce, I guess, he wanted to be in a place long term and forever, pretty much, because he's going to be a Philly for the rest of his career. He has a no trade clause. He has no opt-outs, and he has 13 years. He's going to be 39 when his contract runs out. He's probably going to be retired by the time his contract runs out at 39. So that is crazy.
And I think what stands out to me the most is the no trade clause, no opt-outs. He almost he marries himself to the Philadelphia Phillies now for the next decade plus. And one question I was going to ask you is what's the percentage that you give that he actually plays out this contract with the Phillies all 13 years?
I wouldn't put it at 100%. I'd put it probably somewhere around 75. There is the chance where he gets, a little bit older in age and whatnot. And so with the Phillies, they're starting to hit their sweet spot with the young talent, acquiring talent, with the money coming in that, they should be contenders for the next decade. They really should be contenders for the next decade. And I see Bryce sticking around all, 13 years, to be honest with you. Once he gets to like 34, 35, 36, if he falls off injuries or whatever, gets old, there's a chance that, he won't be a Philly, but he still has no opt-out, no trade clause. So like it would really have to be like, hey, Bryce, we really need you gone. Let's buy out your contract, trade you, do something, to get you gone. But to be honest, I see him staying, for the rest of his career in Philadelphia.
And I think what stands out the most is it's a good spot for him going forward because the young talent is starting to hit their stride. The Phillies were able to lock up Aaron Nola for the next, I believe, 4 seasons at a pretty reasonable deal. They pretty much have everything checked off as far as what you look for out of a contender right now. It's about making that leap. And looking at the NL East right now, your direct competition is the young, hot Atlanta Braves. You were higher on the Braves last year. Do you think they can hold off the Phillies now with the Bryce Harper team or Bryce Harper on the team?
You got to think that not only did they sign Bryce Harper, they traded for JT Realmuto. They signed Andrew McCutchen. Hoskins is going from one of the worst fielding left fielders in the game to a pretty decent first baseman. His natural position is first base all along. So I think offensive-wise, if you look at the Braves' best players and you look at Donaldson, Freeman, Acuna, and then you look at like the Phillies' best players, Hoskins and Segura and, now Harper, McCutchen, those guys, I think the offense is kind of pretty even. I think they'll perform about the same. The big strengths is the Phillies is their bullpen is so much better than Atlanta and their rotation is so much better than Atlanta. Atlanta could catch up if all of their high pitching prospects, all their high draft picks, end up maturing and being better, then that might be a wash. But I still think Nola is the best pitcher in either organizations. Bullpen wise, the Phillies are absolutely better than the Braves. The Braves still, Arodys Vizcaino is good. Yeah, sure. But you really don't want Arodys Vizcaino, closing out Game 7 of a World Series and whatnot. There's still a Craig Kimbrell out in the market that I feel like both teams should go after. The Phillies throw out Sir Anthony Dominguez, Pat Neshek, and throw out David Robertson. That's a really good 7, 8, 9 inning.
And I think that's where the complete factor comes into play here is that now the Phillies are good from the first inning all the way through inning 9, not only with their arms, but in the field as well. I'm just looking at their major signings from the offseason. other ones that stand out to me, they also have Andrew McCutchen to play with, as well as Gene Segura. I think they made themselves deeper and gave themselves a little bit more ability to be versatile down the season. Say if some guys start to struggle, or if you feel the need to shake out the lineup a little bit. I'm just blown away by how well the Philly front office has handled this offseason, because they've now put themselves square in the World Series talk, or World Series title talk here, and they're in it now. I mean, Bryce Harper is a planet player. He's been regarded as one of the best young under 30 players now since he came into the league. And I know some people would mention that he hasn't been as good as advertised at times, but his numbers tell a different story.
Yeah, a lot of it is due to injury. It's not ability; it's mainly injury with him. So last year, his on base percentage was awesome. It was ridiculous. His slugging percentage was awesome. It was ridiculous. Batting average was a little low, but I mean, batting average sure kind of outdated. I think I'm more I rather look at like on base percentage and slugging percentage compared to batting average to kind of get the whole picture. So yeah, he hit 250. That's not a bad thing because he still gets on base. You know, he still hits for power and whatnot. The year before that, he slipped on a wet wet base, and he hurt his knee. And I think he was the front runner for the MVP when he got hurt. He was having an outstanding season. The last 2 seasons have been really good. 2016, you know, it was kind of off year with injuries. 2015 was the MVP year, and that's probably, you know, like a top 5 offensive season in this decade. Since 2010, it's probably like Betts from last year, a couple of Trout seasons, the Miguel Cabrera triple crowns, and like that Bryce Harper 2015 seasons were like the best offensive years like this decade.
Yeah, it's funny. It just goes to show how awesome Mike Trout is, because you can say, well, pick a Mike Trout year. You can't go wrong with it. Like, one of them's bound to stick. No, I think especially in Bryce Harper's case, you know, just because the numbers don't back it up right away, we know how good he can be when he's healthy and everything is kind of flowing in the right direction. And now he's going to be on a lineup where it's not going to squarely fall on him. And not as a direct disrespect to the Washington Nationals, but they've never had a roster this deep for Bryce Harper before.
And they've had good rosters. I feel like, you know, that if Harper went back to the Nationals this offseason, we would have said the Nationals would be where Philly is, fighting for first place, fighting for playoffs, you know, and having World Series aspirations. The Phillies, it's not a bad roster. Not the Phillies, the Nationals, it's not a bad roster at all. I like the Nationals rosters. They added Patrick Corbin this offseason as well. Really good roster with them. They just, you know, a lot of choking in the playoffs and just didn't get it done in DC pretty much.
Fair enough. And the kind of move to the next point is, now that Bryce Harper does sign this deal, you had mentioned Mookie Betts a little bit ago. He's going to be hitting the open market here in the near future. What does the Harper deal mean for players like him going forward?
So Arenado already signed, so that's the big guy that gets taken off the board next year. Players that are going to make over 150 million next season. 2 years from now, it's Trout and Betts that are going to be free agents. I fully expect both of them not to hit the free agent market, but if they did, I could see both of them fetching 400 million. I do believe that both of them get extensions. Trout, I mean, lifetime is a word you probably throw out for Trout. You know, I wouldn't say 15 years, but 13 years, sure. Probably, you know, 10 for 350, 10 for 375 for Trout. Same thing with Betts. I think Betts deserves a 10 for 350 as well. I do believe both players are better than Bryce Harper just because of defensive. You know, they're a lot better defensively than Bryce Harper. And I would pay a little bit more for a Mike Trout or a Mookie Betts.
Me being the Red Sox fan, I don't want Mookie Betts to even sniff free agency. I don't want him to even think about taking a contract from another big market team, because you know, players like Mookie Betts, like Mike Trout, like Bryce Harper, they're they're very rare. And the fact that this current, crop of talent in baseball, I think is the best it's been in quite some time. Like I've never seen this many franchise level players all hit their primes at the same time. And now we've seen what's doing to the free agent market.
Yeah, you look at like the top, I would say what the Braves, Phillies, I think the Nationals are in the mix. And then you got the Cubs, Cards, Brewers, Dodgers, Rockies. There's a lot of good players, 30 and under on each team has like two or three guys that might conceivably, if they have a good year, are in MVP discussions. Like last year, 1 and 2 was Christian Yelich and Javier Baez. I don't think anybody would have said that at the beginning of the season. The Cardinals have Marcell Ozuna, Paul Goldschmidt. Brewers got Yelich. Cubs have Bryant Rizzo, Javier Baez. It's just a lot of talent just in the big teams. One of the thing is though is it's a lot of the talents around the big teams is because there's not a lot of talent on like the lower teams. You got teams like the Marlins. I guess the Mets made the big splash, but I mean, the Mets made all that big splash to go finish in fourth. You got the Pirates, Reds. There's still stars there, but they're still lacking. It takes more than 2 to 3 players. You need to have 6, 7, 8, 9 guys hit career years in the same year. And even if that happens, a la Milwaukee last year, where they had literally everybody have a career year, and you still don't even make the World Series.
In their defense, they made it to Game 7, and they blew it
Yeah.
at home.
Yeah, I mean, it was a successful season, but like Christian Yelich had a career year. That was probably Lorenzo Cain's best year. Hader had a career year. Jeremy Jeffries had a career year. There's a lot of career years out there, and like you don't think that's gonna happen year to year, but that's kind of what you need. You need 5, 6, 7 guys to have a career year, and you might, make a run.
And that's where I kind of feel like the Red Sox fell into that category because, winning 108 games last year and seeing the performances out of pretty much the 1 through 7 guys in the lineup. And then you get to your rotation and like everybody was, again, having career years. So the odds of that happening 2 years in a row, highly unlikely.
That's why I think the Phillies, the Phillies, Dodgers, Cubs, and one more team, the Braves, have like the best chance, in my opinion, because of how many guys that can get to that level.
So now that we know where Bryce Harper is, let's talk about the teams that were always rumored to get him, that were going to make a play on him, that are now without him. So from the get-go, everyone thought the Yankees were going to be the first to back up the Brinks truck for him. They essentially passed because they were able to get Giancarlo Stanton the last offseason. Then obviously still Aaron Judge is there as well. The Los Angeles Dodgers were starting to make a late push to try and see if they could get Bryce to come out west. And then I know the Nationals were always an option for a return. So who out of all these teams do you think is hurt the most by not landing Bryce Harper?
I would probably say the Yankees. I don't think. I think the National. Yeah, I would go with the Nationals. The reason I said the Yankees first off is they're in the division with the Boston Red Sox, so anything that makes them better, is going to help. Of course, Bryce Harper is going to help in their fight against Boston, but being in a division with that good of a team, it's kind of tough. The Nationals, they're losing their homegrown star, the guy that they picked number 1 overall as a teenager. That's the guy that was supposed to bring championships to that franchise, as an expansion team coming from Montreal to DC. Not an expansion, but a relocation team. So that, I guess, the Nationals, I would say, is the team that is hurt the most. I still think the Yankees have a lot of talent, even though they're in Boston's division. I still think the Dodgers have a good shot at winning the West, even though Machado's in the division now, and the Rockies re-signed Arenado, and they're going to be good. But I still think they're the best team in the West. So, I would probably say the Nationals.
And then one team I didn't kind of mention was your hometown Cubs, because we know about the friendship between him and Chris Bryant, and the idea of Harper going to Chicago was kicked around a little bit last year, but we didn't really hear a lot of buzz in this offseason. So would you say the Cubs are now better off not spending that type of money on a player like Harper going forward?
It really depends what contract he was going to get with the Cubs. Now, 13 for 330 is a long time, is a lot of money when you have Bryant, Rizzo, Javier Baez, Kyle Hendricks, Wilson Contreras, Kyle Schwarber all needing new contracts soon. So you're probably going to lose half those names if you go ahead and sign Harper to that contract. Would Harper looked great in that clubhouse, in that jersey, in that lineup? Yeah, he definitely would. He probably would be either 1A, 1B, 1C, the best player on the Cubs. He would have looked great in the lineup. I think it was more of, there was a lot of rumors around that the Cubs didn't have money to spend. I don't think it's because the Cubs didn't have money to spend. I think the Cubs deemed Bryce Harper as a luxury, a $300 million luxury. So if you look at, the Cubs and you look in the lineup and you think if everything clicks, they're going to have a shot at winning the World Series. And they can do that without Bryce Harper. So why would you spend $300 million on Bryce Harper with the guys that you need to pay? But instead, Bryce Harper leaves. You keep your homegrown guys. Bryce Harper, maybe another lifetime, maybe another universe.
Well, I think you hit it. You hit it perfectly with saying that there's other guys that are going to command paydays here, and Bryce Harper, yeah, that's a nice luxury, but not necessarily a necessity. Especially after last season, you handed out the Darvish contract. Brian's going to be coming up soon. You're going to have to re-up Baez and the rest of the core. So you want to take care of in-house matters first and kind of let Theo work from there. So it would have been cool seeing Bryce Harper out in Chicago, but it just never would have really meshed, if that would have made sense. Like, it's almost too much. Like, they didn't need him. They just would have gotten him to get him so no one else could.
Yeah, I mean, you can just throw out what ifs and whatnot. It's like, oh, maybe you don't sign Tyler Chatwood to the worst contract in baseball right now. Maybe because Bryce Harper is making $25 million a year. Tyler Chatwood's making $12 million a year. That's like half. Like Tyler Chatwood's making half of what Bryce Harper is making a year. Maybe you don't sign Yu Darvish and you go ahead and you re-sign Jake Arrieta. Jake Arrieta, Yu Darvish has 2 more years than Jake Arrieta. Maybe he's like, oh, hey, we signed Jake Arrieta 3 years. He gets off the books sooner. He gets off the books the same year we need to pay all of our young stars. That would be fine, or something like that. You spend $20 million this year on Cole Hamels' option. Sure. I mean, he was kind of needed. You kind of need that 5th starter, but there's a lot of what ifs with the Cubs, and being a Cubs fan, you can say this and that, and what could happen here or there, but no worries really.
Well, I think one thing that does need to happen is what Cubs game we will go to this year, as I am all kinds of down to finally go to Wrigley. Let's just kind of now look ahead. Who are you picking for a World Series matchup as of today, February 28th?
As of today, Cubs Red Sox.
I like the sound of that dance.
Yeah, that'd be the Cubs game to go to this year. So let's just spend like $3K and just go to a couple World Series games.
Hello, Fidelity? Yeah, I'm gonna need all that 401k in retirement I invested in. Yeah, I don't care. I don't need this. I'm not living past 40 anyways. Let's go.
If you cash that, you're gonna get fined by the IRS, right?
I already got issues with the IRS. It's fine. They just add it, to anything else. But if I'm picking right now, I'm gonna.
And that's only me picking the Cubs because I'm a Cubs fan. There's legitimately 3 teams in each division that you could possibly say can make the World Series.
Can I just ask what teams you're taking out of the NL West?
I think the Dodgers are the class of the NL West. And then I would go the Rockies, then the Padres. But the Padres, I think the Padres this year are the Braves last year. that if everything goes right, they can make a run and win 90 games. But I still think they're a year away because their pitching hasn't matured yet.
Beautiful.
But,
Can't say
but,
anything about Petco.
but if San Diego goes out and spends money on Kimbrel and Dallas Keuchel, that I might have to reimagine things because we still got a couple big free agents. Whoever Kimbrel and Keuchel signs with might sway the NL pennant.
Kimbrel's talking about sitting out the whole year if his number isn't met. Like, he's fine with just, I don't need to come back.
What's crazy is the Phillies are still $30 million under the cap, under the luxury tax, not the cap. So you give Kimbrel like, hey, here's 1 year, $20 million. Come close for us for a year, and Philly still would be under the tax. So like, the Padres could offer the same thing, 1 year, $20 million. Like, somebody can offer him a big contract for 1 year and tell him, hey, just go, stay here for a year, make 20 million, test the free agent market next year. Like, I don't think he's going to be unsigned for much, much longer. I think because Harper has signed now, the teams that missed out or the team that did sign Harper, the money's kind of freed up now. Like, even the Cubs were like, hey, here's 1 year, 15 million. That's not going to hurt us too much. Come close. Our closer's already out for spring training. He won't see the first month, so we kind of need one. So, you know what I'm saying? So, like, there's a bunch of teams that could say, Kimbrel, come be our closer for a year.
I think Craig just needs to just show up, man. Like,
you can go back to Boston.
Supposedly, John Henry said we're done signing, or excuse me, Dave Dombrowski said we're good. We're not signing people anymore, which is kind of scary seeing what the bullpen looks like on paper. But the bullpen proved me wrong last year.
Who is the closer
right now? I think it's Ryan Brazier.
That's not good.
No, it's not ideal. That's for sure. Joe Kelly went out to Los Angeles, and Craig Kimbrel is not playing right now. So it's the guys that they've had in house now, which again, not ideal, but maybe they think, hey, let's let this problem sort itself out. We did fine last year.
Would you think about trading like Bogaerts, who's a free agent after this season, who's probably going to get paid for a closer? Would you think about maybe Devers? I think Devers is going to start at third. Devers, Bogaerts. Who's the second baseman? Is it going to be Pedroia? Is it going to be Pedroia? Is he going to be
back? You still have Eduardo Nunez.
Steve Pearce can play there, I guess.
Steve Pearce and Moreland are still at first, but obviously the resources not only have to be saved for Bogaerts, but obviously Betts and what you're going to do with Bradley as well, and then you'll still have Benintendi down the line too.
I don't even know of a closer that would be available from like a team that's not in it anymore. So like if you look at the Central and you think of all the teams that aren't going to be in it, there's the White Sox. They think there's a future there in the next couple of years. The Tigers are kind of out of it, but there's not really a guy there that's a shutdown closer that's worth trading a Devers or somebody like that too. I don't know where you would find the closer is what I'm saying.
I think that's the mystery right now is you don't know who or where you're going to get it from, because if you're going to give up one of these assets like a Bogaerts, who's one of the better shortstops under 26 right now, you just don't pick them up for nothing.
So what about the Mets? They traded for Edwin Diaz, right? So the Mets traded for Edwin Diaz, but they're about to finish fourth. Would you trade Benintendi for Edwin Diaz?
Oof.
Because if I'm the Mets and the Red Sox come asking for Edwin Diaz, who's 25, cost-controlled closer, I'm asking for Benintendi.
I think you have to, because that's also a corner outfield spot for, if you want to re-up them for your next 6-7 years. But again, it's just depending on if the Mets are willing to do that. I believe Diaz was considered a throw-in because of the Cano contract. So Seattle was okay, let's take him off our books, and as a throw-in, we'll give you Diaz as well.
Yeah,
the Mets aren't going to compete that much, especially now in their own division. Like, someone needs to tell the New York media that it's not 2006 anymore, or 2000, whatever you want to say, with this roster, because it's not happening.
I mean, if DeGrom has 85% of the year he had, and then Syndergaard is healthy and Syndergaard has the 15% drop off from DeGrom goes on to Syndergaard, that's 1-2 that like you have a good chance of winning every series if they're going 1-2, you know. So I mean, yeah, and this time the bullpen, you're just gonna throw Diaz out there. He's not gonna blow saves. For DeGrom might actually win a couple of games instead of leaving in the eighth and then having the bullpen give up 12 runs. So I mean, the Mets should be a little bit better, but I still think they're fourth.
I wonder how if the A's would want to part ways with Blake Treinen.
I think the A's are probably the second best team in the West, though. Chapman is going to put up a top 10 MVP season. Matt Olson's going to hit 10 home runs, Chris Davis is going to hit 40 home runs again. The A's aren't bad per se.
They do have a window to win the West right now. If things don't get better in Anaheim, you don't know what Texas is going to be. And then obviously you have Houston. So that'll be a good situation to keep an eye on. We'll dive into like all of these more when it comes closer to season preview time. But to answer your original question, for the Red Sox closing situation, it's not immediately available. I'll say that much. It's not in-house. I know they won a World Series with this group, but two of the major players are no longer in camp, and that was your 8th and 9th inning guys. The guys that they have were the ones that you're holding your breath about.
And not even bringing in like more bullpen options, Nope,
nothing. They're just rolling with it. They're still having fun, watching their World Series highlights, doing their hashtag did damage, all that fun stuff. Season's going to creep up here real soon, fellas.
The season's already started. I've already requested opening day off, so I mean,
yeah, I was happy that I actually got to experience an actual opening day, like day one baseball. And it turned out to be one of the best pitching performances of the past 5 seasons.
Miss Arrieta.
Oh, Jesus Christ. Oh, that was a good time. I cannot wait to go back to more baseball games. Any leftover thoughts on Bryce Harper, man?
He got paid. Good for him. I'm happy that the talks of baseball free agency being a wash and nobody having money. Harper and Machado got $300 million each, so I'm happy for him.
Yeah, it definitely wasn't the time frame people were looking for, but they end up getting their paydays. Another point I'd like to make: I think this kind of means JD Martinez might opt out next year. He does have 2 opt-outs starting after season 3 and in season 4, and he's even said like, "Damn, I could have gotten more."
I don't think he could have, though, because he's a DH.
And I think that's what the Red Sox will kind of counter with. Is like, well,
you don't play the field.
I don't know he does play the field. It's more so, I don't want to call him a liability, but he's not winning any gold gloves.
Yeah. While you have like 3 gold glove caliber outfielders out there right now, so he doesn't even need to play the field, but he's really just a bat.
A hell of a bat at that. So with that being said, we want to thank you guys for tuning into this week's emergency-ish edition of the Bleacher Preacher podcast. We are on Twitter at Bleach Preach Pod, where activity is starting to kick up a little bit. You can follow the show on Instagram as well at Bleacher Preacher Podcast. We are on SoundCloud, Stitcher, Google Play, Spotify. We're done with you. We don't need you anymore. We've moved on. We found better things. Still looking for our first sponsorship opportunity. Tim Hortons. Please.
That's definitely who I want. Tim Hortons is the first sponsor.
I mean, I reached out to Tim Hortons U.S. and Canadian Twitter's account, so I don't know how that's going to work, guys. Like, we have no problem. We can all be about Timbits, Timmy H's, all that fun stuff, even though Dunkin' Donuts is the reigning champion of coffee and donuts here in America.
I would give up Dunkin' Donuts if Tim Hortons sponsored us.
You have no idea how much I miss Dunkin' Donuts. Everything here is...
There's not even a Tim Hortons... There's not even a Tim Hortons here, and I would give up Dunkin' Donuts if Tim Hortons sponsored us.
We looked into it. All we need is about $1 million in liquid assets to franchise one, so
I believe it's like 2.75 because I
Okay, so
have
got some
looked
work to
into
do.
it.
I'm looking to maybe starting a stand-up career, sell some old jerseys. You guys can, hustle the turf, everything you guys have been doing there. I'm
Uh,
do this.
I'm gonna go ahead and start a food truck. We're gonna sell chicken katsu tacos.
Make sure you copyright that idea because somebody may jump on and listen to this. Thanks again, guys, for listening. You can find me on Twitter at Jonathan_R. Rob,
Rob_BPP.
always great content coming from the both of us. Be on the lookout for a Disney bracket, but not the Disney you're thinking of. Oh, there's going to be a good one coming soon. Thank you again, guys, and we'll see you on the next one.
Peace.